What's going on, everybody? Gunnar here. Today I wanted to do the Sculp Daddy tutorial, and we're going to run through it real quick. I got most of everything prepped, and the reason why I want to do it is, one, I haven't uploaded a video in a while. Two, I don't have it out. I have the triple out, the triple Sculp Daddy tutorial, and it's been a while, and I've updated some things, and it'll be easy to talk about through this media, I suppose. So, Sculp Daddy. It's like a 4.5, 5-inch articulated marabou bug. Very simple, theory-wise, streamer. And so basically what you need is 3 plumes of marabou, it's a EP Foxy brush, EP Sparkle brush, some polar chenille, and basically hooks. But the back hook is a number 1 Partridge Attitude streamer hook. The front hook is going to be a 1/0 Ahrex Predator stinger hook. Yeah, and Ahrex is just coming out with the 1/0 and the number 1, which I also have been using, and they are absolutely prime hooks for honestly any of my bugs. If you do the hollow point, True to His Demise, Martian, triple Sculp Daddy, the number 1 and the 1/0 Predator stingers are absolutely prime hooks. They are awesome. So that's what we got going on for hooks. I'm coming in with a piece of marabou, and I like to do the tail at 1.5, almost 2 lengths of the hook shank. So you can see that's about 1.5, 2-ish. I'm going to shorten that up just a little bit. And I find that length to be the length at which our palmered marabou, which is going to be at the eye of this back hook, kind of bleeds into that and creates a really nice silhouette and taper. So I'm going to leave a little bit of room right at the hook eye just so I have room to palmer my marabou and everything and get my polar chenille caught and trapped down. I'm going to come in with 3 strands of holographic olive flashabou from Hedron and just pin that right on top. Don't wrap all the way back yet. Cut it to the length you need and then flare it out. Kind of just shove your thumb in there, move it around, and then tie that back so you have your flash kind of better distributed and applied throughout the tail. Gonna come in with some UV polar chenille. I got a bare section ripped off already so that I'm trapping the cord, right? See if I can get that to lay down. Make sure that's all good and tied in. And then I'm gonna come right in front of that. Little bump there. And then you can do touching wraps. It doesn't really need to be super dense. So you can kind of just walk this forward. And again, I mentioned this in the hollow point tutorial. About every 3 wraps or so, I like to give that a straight pull all the elasticity out of that core material, which is just nylon, right? And that's going to help pin it to your shank so that a tooth can't get under there and break that out. So, when it comes to palmering marabou, I have a whole spiel on this in my triple Sculp Daddy video. It's not a big deal. Do it however you find most comfortable. I like to palmer from the base to the front, exposing more tips. And something I used to think that figure 8ing your hackle added tension to both sides of the stem so it wouldn't pull out. That might be true. I don't have them pull out very often. But what it actually does, I've come to realize this, and it's from a Kelly Gallup video, but this stem is flattened, right? It's compressed just like saddle hackles and Sculpin and everything else. And so when you figure 8 this, you essentially pin the flat side of this to the hook shank. Just want to make sure this is going to do what I want so that my explanation is backed up. So when you see, and I lift this, you can see how the shaft is perpendicular to the hook, right? And it doesn't want to rotate. Like a lot of people, they'll tie in their marabou and they'll go to palmer it, and the feather will twist, and so then they'll palmer it the other way. And you don't want to do that, because if you always palmer clockwise, when you catch it clockwise with your thread, you add tension, right? So it never backs off. Even though we're gonna tie over top of all this and make it all secure, it doesn't really matter. But that's why you figure 8 the hackle stem. It's so you put the flat side of the stem, the compressed side, against the hook, and when you go to wrap it, there's no twist. It wants to go that direction, basically. So we just figure eighted that through and a half hitch. I'm going to catch this with tackle pliers, and then we're going to walk this around the hook. So I have that trapped. Going to put 2 wraps over top and break off our tip here. Make sure nothing's really trapped in there, and then wrap over top all that palmered marabou so that none of that bare stem is exposed. And now you have a nice light wispy marabou tail. And really the bulk of the marabou tail is all from that UV polar chenille. I would recommend UV polar chenille and things like large crystal hackle. If you were to try like a chocolate filler flash, it's way too bulky and builds too quickly, and it gives the back a weird kind of proportion. But that polar chenille with touching wraps is just about perfect to keep a nice kind of bulky silhouette underneath that marabou. And you can see the 1.5 tail length bleeds right in with that wing material. And you're looking at this and you might say this is kind of like awkward, like it's not really proportionate. But what you have to understand is the front hook wing is going to land halfway down that marabou and create a really nice silhouette. So that's what we got going on the front hook. So this is again a 1/0 Predator Stinger from Ahrex Hooks. Should be seeing these guys pop out here shortly. That's a really awesome hook for this kind of, well, really any size articulated streamer, but the Sculp Daddy in particular, and basically everything else I tie. So we're coming in here with a set of medium lead eyes. The reason why I do medium is it gives the bug a nice subtle jigging action, kind of gets down quick so you can hit banks and drop-offs, a little bit more efficient for lake fishing practices. And I know a lot of my customers use floating lines, and so this bug will get down and fish with a floating line relatively quickly. So it's one of the reasons why I do it. And you can basically offset, the purpose of it is to offset the buoyancy of the deer hair collar and stacked dubbing head, right? That's the purpose. And so if you want it to be lightweight, have a little bit more hover and kick, you can go down to a small lead eyes, right? If you want it to get down really far, you could use large lead eyes and invert the hook. That'd be totally cool. If you were fishing for walleyes or something, you need to kind of dredge the bottom, whatever you want to do there. So that's my justification of that. And then, like always, just securing those lead eyes so they don't go anywhere. Spinning my thread, what direction is that? Clockwise. That way we get a nice round thread, and I'm going to build the thread dam just behind these eyes for my deer hair collar placement. Sweet deal. So now we're coming in. We've got EP Foxy Brush on top, EP Sparkle on the bottom. The Foxy Brush is like a brown olive kind of mottled color, and the Sparkle Brush is an olive, which is kind of like a peacock green icewing fiber. And these are cut to 2 inches in length with bare wire exposed for the tie-in and tie-off points. And basically we're just going to do an open spiral wrap up to that thread dam, leaving about a hook eye length behind the thread dam for us to palmer our marabou wing, which is basically just going to bleed over all this into our back cut, right? So this is our bulk, and it's our flash, and it's our body, and it creates the profile and wing support for the marabou to create the continuous kind of conical profile of a bottom dweller. So I'm just going to wrap this around here, use my fingers to kind of preen it out so I don't trap as much stuff. And that 2-inch mark is just about perfect for this bug as well as the marabou minnow. Just for a reference there if you're cutting these with a measuring tape. 2 in front, 2 behind, 2 in front, 2 behind, and then I'm just going to walk this wire up and trap over it with some nice tight wraps. And now we're ready to palmer some marabou. Just gonna, forgot to pick this out. Booyah. So this is kind of the update, right? I used to, you can try to palmer the UV polar chenille with the Foxy brush simultaneously. It gives it a good effect, but it's really hard to kind of keep both taut when you're doing it. This is much more consistent, easier. If you were to do polar chenille palmered and then the Foxy brush palmered, which is also what I used to do, it creates 2 tying points and an extra step and extra material, and you have to prep them at different times. So this saved time, simplified the bug, added a longer flash fiber, and it's more consistent in being able to do both brushes simultaneously and taut, which adds durability. So that's why I switched to the EP Sparkle brush on the front of this hook. So again, I'm figure 8ing this hackle, and if it works out I'll show you why again. And so what you can see is this hackle, when I move this hook up, it's standing 90 degrees perpendicular to that hook shank because we took the flat part of the feather, put it on the flat part of the hook, right? So when you go to palmer this, that feather is not going to want to twist at all, and you have 100% control over the concavity of the feather. And the same principles apply with palmering, schlopping, and hackles and everything else. At some point, saddle hackle, the diameter of the stem is small enough that it doesn't matter. But for schlopping especially, which has a really nice thick stem on it, this is a much more efficient way of attaching it to the hook for palmering. Wrap back to where you tied that stem in, so there's no exposed stem, right? That's all durability stuff. Then we're going to move up into that thread dam, where we're going to do a big old deer hair collar that's nice and big. So the whole point of the Sculp Daddy was me and my dad were walking the banks of the Madison River. We were up by Reynolds. We were actually heading up towards Kelly's shop, and there was a garter snake, like up in the brush, maybe a foot off the river, choking down a sculpin, a big sculpin, like a 6-inch sculpin. And there was nothing that I had seen fly-wise that matched that volume. It was a fat, little, big old sculpin with super big head and wide shoulders. So when you do this head, I like this head to be a full third, like a legitimate third. If you tape this out, you're like, that's almost 5 inches. Like, this collar needs to be an 1.5 inch collar, not necessarily the collar in itself, but the whole head region should be a third of this bug. It's a sculpin, right? And so that's why I designed this in the first place and tied it and came up with the triple, which I reduced down to the Sculp Daddy for kind of marketability, because not everyone wants to throw a 6.5 inch sculpin. So it's important to me that when you tie these heads, that you make them big on purpose, because it's accurate. That's the whole point, right? The whole marabou tail, marabou wing, kind of material dam, marabou wing, right? It's all intruder style. It's a material dam, polar chenille with a wing, right? It's an EP Foxy brush, EP Sparkle brush with a wing. It's all about building a dam and a wing and a dam and a wing, and having the profile bleed into each other to create a fusiform silhouette. And it means nothing if you don't give it the head. The head is everything. The head is the action. The head is the water pushing. The head is going to allow for the articulation. It's going to allow for swimming while you straight pull, because it's going to push the water around the fly. It's the silhouette, which if you ever fish in dirty water, silhouette is everything. You could fish, if you have the right silhouette, it doesn't matter what color it is, because the fish are only looking for a silhouette, especially in dirty water. A black fly throws the best silhouette. As long as you have the correct silhouette, they'll eat it all day long. It doesn't matter, right? So make the heads big. They're supposed to be big. So I have a boatload of deer hair with all the butts and cleaned out and everything, right? I'm going to stack this right on top, slide that out, and I want this, boom, it's going to be long. So I'm going to pinch it right kind of where I saw it there. Clean this with a nice vertical cut. One of the tricks to getting a good stack is you need to lay this hair down vertically. It's kind of tough to do. Your hook and everything gets in the way. We're going to catch that with a loose wrap, pull it down vertically. Second loose wrap, pull it down more. A third loose wrap, keep your hands on top so it doesn't rotate. Don't pull too hard, you will pull it through. And then I'm going to trap a whole bunch of butts down for durability. Kind of cinch that down. Walk my thread in front of the lead eyes up to the hook eye, and give that a 1/2 inch. Now I used to cut this with a razor blade, and about every 5th fly or 6th fly or something, I'd always cut my thread, and it was really irritating. You don't need to do it. You can just come in with your scissors, clean up these butts. That way we have room to do our rubber legs and dubbing, and it's not a big deal. I'm going to cut this deer hair out from underneath. Some of it got stuck underneath. It's not a big deal. And what you want to do is you want to shove your thumb into it, right? Which is moving that hair from directly on top more towards the side, because I want a Sculpin has a flat head that's wide. It's flat but wide, so I don't want it to be super voluminous this way, but I want to add the width. And this is distributing those hair fibers. Got a nice flat bottom, good stability. Gonna comb out that marabou that kind of got pushed down and trapped by that deer hair. And then I'm gonna run my thread through all these butts again for durability. Now I used to do the rubber legs kind of as their own unit on each side, and I stopped doing that and started doing the Kelly Gallup figure 8 method. So I'll walk you through that real quick. And that just, it saved time, honestly, and it is more durable and everything else. He knows what he's doing. 3 legs. I thought 5 was a bit too much after fishing these for the past year, and I like to, so this is all head. Now the purpose of the rubber legs is fin raise. It's supposed to be your pectoral raise, the little bone filaments that control the fin position, right? And so I like to extend these now just a hair past that head region. So we're going to drape this over the hook, 50-50, thread going from in front to behind, from behind to in front. That's a figure 8, right? I'm going to pull up on the individual fibers. You can see your figure 8 now. Because this is gel spun and it's not going to stretch, I'm going to throw an additional wrap around the hook, draw the rubber legs to my side, because when I cinch this down they're going to rotate right up to the center, right? So we use the torque, the rotation of the thread being wrapped around the hook to pull those into position. Add a little bit of securing wraps and a 1/2 inch. They'll never move, right? And the whole point with rubber legs, you tie them in loose enough that you don't cut the rubber, but tight enough that they don't move. Kind of simple, I guess. So yeah. And then you can cut the side you can see, and then draw the legs forward to match what you cut. Now they're the same. We'll just kind of hold those out of the way. You can clamp those, or once you get one stack of dubbing on there, they'll stay out of your way. So that's my detailed explanation for the deer hair and the rubber legs. We're good to go. Time to stack some dubbing. Got Frankenfly Monster Dub. I also use laser dub. It kind of depends on the color combos and what I'm looking for and blah blah blah. Basically, to me all dubbings are the same. You have laser dub, Franken dub, you have Fly Fish Food has a dubbing, and they have a junior, I forget the name of it. You have wool, you can use underfur from Icelandic sheep and snow runner. It's all good. Basically, but you have 2 kinds. You have acrylics, which are like laser dub and Fly Fish Foods dubbing, and then you have naturals, right? This is alpaca dubbing, or if you use like actual ram's wool is obviously a natural material. And they have a little bit of different viscosities. I honestly don't think it matters that much, but they do. I just kind of grew up tying with wool because most of Kelly's patterns have wool, and so I really like the alpaca from the Monster Dub. And something about dubbings, obviously a dubbing bag is 100% usable. There's no waste, right? I get to use this whole bag, so there's a draw for me to find a natural based dubbing such as Monster Dub, because it has the consistency, texture, the length I want, but it's a natural material. It's a little bit more viscous. It's, you know, kind of pushes more water, has more drag. So It's whatever you have available is just fine. The recipe's not like you have to use Monster Dub or else the fly does not work. It doesn't really matter. But that's my spiel for you. So I like to relatively thick them out right here on the collar. This is the stack behind the eyes, the length of that deer hair. Got a rubber leg in the way here. Give that a nice loose wrap. Second wrap. Oh, that slipped up on me, eh? Did you see that? Oh my gosh, that's embarrassing. Keep that right on top. Don't let that sucker rotate. Gel sponge slick. Coming in on the bottom with a new color of Monster Dub, which is yellow, and it's awesome. I don't always do different belly colors. I'm just doing this because I use this stack of dubbing on the belly, which you want to do pretty thick or else you'll have a hard time trimming it to the right shape. But I use it to cover up all these thread wraps. Right? I have thread from marabou, I have thread from my foxy brushes, I have thread from my deer hair and rubber legs, right? So this is really a belly texture stack that's supposed to bleed back into the fly and control the color of the belly. And I use this on quite a few of my bugs. So that's why I'm going with a lighter color in this one. I don't always. Sometimes I do them all olive. It depends on if it's a custom order or if someone ordered off the website basically, or if it's for me. I play around a lot. So nothing is set in stone. Now the front of this, I also like it's okay to overdub, right? If you overdub, you just have to trim more. If you underdub, you basically have to cut your fly off and do it again, or fish a really sparse head bug that's not going to move the same. So if you make an error, I always tend to err on the heavy side because even though you might waste some material, you'll be basically 100% happy with the end result. Give that a nice turn. I'm actually going to do olive up here on the front just because I don't know, think it'll look cool to have a little dark lip chinny patch. Anyway, y'all know how to do this, I suppose. Bring that up to the side, walk it in front, pull the dubbing underneath, back. Now you got a good clean catch on the hook eye, right? You got a no stretch dubbing, make sure there's no slack in that. Then we're gonna throw in a half hitch right here. Good to go. Throw in a whip finish, we'll give that 5 turns, walk that off. And then cut your thread. Booyah. Maybe that olive patch on the belly looks weird. We'll find out later. Comb this out, right? Actually, stop this. Okay, so basically we're just going to comb all this out. I always like to do the bottom first. I don't know why. It just, maybe it's a deer hair thing. You always trim the bottom flat first. Anyway. So I like to pull all this kind of up, right? You can come through and brush all this up. I want that yellow going back, so I'm going to move that back at an angle. And you can kind of just do one clean bleeding cut down there. Hit your edges so you don't have any 90-degree edges in there. Make sure that's good and spread out. So now we have a nice little yellow belly patch, dark lip. Clean up around the eyes real quick. Don't worry about shaping this front section too much because we're going to come in and glue this eye and use a bodkin to push that dubbing back a little bit. Sweet. Now for the top. We did the top in 2 stacks, right? So one, I don't like to cut my collar stack, only the front stack. So if you take a bodkin or your scissor points, you put them right on top of the lead eyes, you can perfectly separate your back stack from your front stack. You see that? This is how you do this head extremely consistently every time. Comb this up straight vertical. Come in at the angle of your collar and just trim that and flatten this out. Now, if you don't like trimming heads, you can basically be done. I just like to pull out any fibers that are longer than the deer hair. That's it. But if you know me, I'm gonna trim this. I almost always take this, hold that up at a vertical angle, put one drop right over the hook eye here. I guess that's not one drop, it's quite a lot of drops. And that's going to help keep those knots in place. And then I come in with the bodkin and roll your bodkin up and down to really make that eye visible and pronounced. So it's easy, and then you just poke that up there, and now you don't have any glue in there. So good. It's so fishy. It's marabou. I'd eat it. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up or something, or subscribe, comment. But hopefully we got a long winter of tutorials ahead of us. So thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time.